Okay, so today we are going to unpack a management technique that is so simple you might have already overlooked it, but it's also so powerful it can totally transform a team. And it really all comes down to this one simple idea: catching people doing something right, even if it's just approximately right.
But before we dive into the solution, we've got to talk about the problem. So let me ask you this. What do you think is the most popular and at the same time, the most destructive management style out there? I am willing to bet you've experienced it. Heck, you've probably even seen it in action today.
Well, that destructive style actually has a name. It's called the leave alone zap problem. And believe me, it's not just some quirky phrase. It is a guaranteed recipe for disengagement.
So what is it exactly? Well, think of it like a toxic two-step. First, a manager just leaves you alone. They assume you know what to do and expect good performance. Then, when you inevitably don't meet their unspoken expectations, zap! You get hit with this wave of criticism that just comes out of absolutely nowhere. And this, right here, creates this massive gap between what the manager thinks is happening and what's really going on. The manager is expecting all this great performance and high productivity, but the employee, they're living in a constant state of fear, just trying to fly under the radar. Their goal isn't to innovate or excel, it's to do the bare minimum to avoid getting zapped. That is a perfect storm for disengagement. So, if leave alone zap is the problem, then what's the solution? Well, it's actually beautifully simple. The real key to training someone isn't about punishing every little mistake. No, it's to catch someone doing something approximately right. And that simple shift in focus, it changes everything.
So how do you actually train a winner? Well, the best lessons, and you might find this surprising, actually come from the animal kingdom.
I want you to imagine this challenge for a second. You have to train a pigeon to cross a box from one corner to the other and press a specific lever with its right foot. Now, if you just put the pigeon in the box and waited for it to do all of that perfectly, what do you think would happen? The poor thing would starve to death and has absolutely no idea what you want it to do.
So how do you actually do it? Well, you break it down into tiny little pieces. First, you draw a line near the entrance, and you give the pigeon a food pellet just for crossing that line. Simple. Once it gets that, you draw another line, a little further in. Now, you only reward it for crossing the new line. You just keep moving that goalpost, step by step, rewarding these approximations, until finally, the pigeon is over there hitting that lever. And this just brilliantly shows the two approaches side by side. If you wait for perfection, you're going to end up with failure. But if you reward approximation, if you catch the pigeon doing something approximately right, you build this clear, step-by-step path to success. The pigeon learns exactly what to do because you're guiding it the whole way with positive reinforcement.
Okay, now let's scale this whole idea up a lot. How in the world do you get a massive whale to leap high out of the water over a rope? I mean, you don't just find one in the ocean already doing that, right? Just like our pigeon, the training has to start from absolute zero.
So, how do they pull it off? It's the exact same method as the pigeon. They start with the rope literally on the bottom of the pool. Every single time the whale swims over it, it gets a reward. Then, they raise the rope just a little bit, and then a little more. And over time, they just keep raising that rope, rewarding the whale for clearing it until it's way up high above the water, creating that amazing, spectacular jump. It is all about rewarding progress.
Okay, I get it. Pigeons and whales are one thing, but people, they're more complicated, right? Well, here's the really fascinating part. We already do this. We use this exact same principle completely instinctively, especially with the people we care about the most.
Just think about teaching a child to walk. When a baby pulls themselves up and just wobbles there for a single second before tumbling back down, we don't scold them for not taking a step. No way. We get so excited we're yelling, "He stood! He stood!" We celebrate that first, shaky, wobbly approximation of the final goal. Or what about teaching a kid to talk? Let's say you want them to ask for a glass of water. If you just waited for them to say the full perfect sentence, "May I please have a glass of water?" they'd die of thirst. So when they finally look at you and manage to say, "Waller," what do? We get grandma on the phone, we celebrate like they just won a Nobel Prize. And here's the crucial point. We don't celebrate Waller because Waller is the final goal. Of course not. We celebrate it because it is progress. By rewarding that one tiny little step, we are paving the way for the next one and the one after that. And this brings us right back around to the dark side of this coin. I mean, if rewarding these little approximations works so well, why does the leave alone zap method, which is all about punishment, fail so spectacularly, especially when you're dealing with someone who's new or inexperienced?
To really see why punishment is such a terrible teacher, let me tell you this perfect and kind of darkly funny story about a new dog. See, its owners had a, well, let's call it a unique plan for house training. Their method was pure punishment. The plan was, if the dog had an accident inside, they would shove its nose in the mess, hit it with a newspaper, and then physically throw it out the window into the backyard, where it was supposed to go.
So what was the result after a few days of this training? The dog would have an accident on the floor and then immediately jump out the window all by itself. So let me ask you, what did the dog actually learn from all this?
Well, it definitely didn't learn what it was supposed to do. What it learned was that this is a hostile, punishing place. It learned that it's not safe to take any risks. And most importantly, it learned that after it messed up, it needed to get out of there and fast. It learned fear. It didn't learn the correct behavior.
And that right there is the core takeaway for managing people. When a new person on your team makes a mistake or fails at a task, the answer isn't to zap them. The answer is to go all the way back to the beginning. Revisit the goals. Make absolutely sure they understand what good performance actually looks like. And then, and this is the important part, you look for the very next opportunity to catch them doing something approximately right.
So I'll leave you with this challenge. It doesn't matter if you're a manager, a parent, a coach, or just a friend. Who can you catch doing something right today? What's one small step, one little approximation of a bigger goal that you can spot and praise?